Morgan Zegers, founder and CEO of Young Americans Against Socialism. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Austin.
And flew up all the way from Texas to see us in Little Phoenix.
Absolutely. I love it.
Awesome. Well, good to see you. So, Morgan, obviously you've got a huge following online. You've built this organization from the ground up, and you've done some phenomenal media work. I'm going to say in all 50 states, but also globally, because I know people in other countries, maybe even China, are taking a look at you.
I get a lot of messages from people as far as India and especially in Asia, where there's quite a history of communism and socialism there. So I just really appreciate getting their kind messages.
Absolutely. So tell me, how'd you come up with the organization? What was your journey? What inspired you to do this?
Yeah, so it all goes back to really my time in college. I'm from upstate New York, and my dad's a colonel in the military. My mom's a physical therapist that always watched Fox News, and she herself is very conservative, but my parents never really pushed politics onto me. They just raised me with an appreciation for history, an understanding of the sacrifices that were made throughout American history specifically to get us to this really great place where we're at. Major true progress, not leftist progress, which is actually regress. And so I went from upstate New York, little farm country, to Washington, D.C. for school. I went to American University, and it's 90% liberal, which is fine. I'm fine with being in a challenging environment, but it was also the #1 most politically active campus in the country. So I saw some crazy stuff. I remember one time they protested because they wanted a segregated cafe on campus where white people wouldn't be allowed because that's inclusive to them. Just some weird stuff, but the one thing that really hit me is my last year. I moved into a house off campus, and I didn't know some of the girls in the house, so I went and introduced myself, and the girl in the basement, I was meeting her and talking to her, and I was getting distracted, though, by something I was seeing on her wall, and I kid you not, it was drawing my eye because it was a poster of Mao Zedong, Lenin, Stalin, Karl Marx, and Fidel Castro.
Some of the most infamous dictators
Mass
in American
murderers
history.
and dictators, yeah. And so
absolutely.
I'm like,
what's really going on?
Yeah, so they have like party hats on and these fruity umbrella drinks in their hands, and it said, "Welcome to the party." And so, I don't know, you would think that me, little Miss Americana, my dad's in the military, served on 9/11, served in Operation Iraqi Freedom, I'm a history nerd, and I'm confronted with my first ever communist, because that's what she said. "Oh, yeah, I'm a communist. You like my poster?" I had no idea what to say, Austin, and I was really, really disappointed in myself. And I realized that a lot of people are going to be put in those circumstances these days because the numbers are pretty crazy. About 70% of my generation would currently vote for a socialist. A majority of my generation views socialism more positively than capitalism. And when I was speaking to my roommate, she's telling me that her ideas are going to uplift the working class, end poverty in America, bring unity and equality and justice for all. And then again, there's mass murderers and dictators on our wall at the same time. And so I had no idea what to say as I'm being fed that leftist garbage, and I knew that a lot of people are going to be put in those circumstances. I wanted to start building a stronger understanding for history, economics, and current events amongst all generations in America by providing educational content, because I want them to be equipped for those moments where we're going to be confronted by people that promise progress but have the mass murderers and dictators on their wall.
Oh yeah. And to just have those conversations with individuals who have those beliefs, which of course in America we're all entitled to follow our own ideology, but the biggest issue is how are we talking to each other right now in today's political environment? And I know especially those who follow you, it's young people, are you looking more at the high school students, or is it more college students that you're engaging with and having those more intellectual discussions about, okay, if you're going to talk to a communist, this is what you need to say about freedom and what it means to America? Yeah,
so it's really, we've been around for 2 years now. A few days ago was our 2nd birthday. So
congratulations.
Thank you.
And happy birthday. We can cheers to that.
Thank you so much.
With our coffee stout today.
It's very good. So when I first was getting started, I was just working in an advertising company. I was very low level. I managed national media commercials for brands. And I'm talking like grass seed, reality TV companies, weird stuff like that, where it's nothing fulfilling. Let's just say that. And so I was working crazy hours. You stay there until like 7:30 at night, and I was living in Boston, walking home every night and at dark, and then I would do the same thing every single day, and I'd be just face down in an Excel sheet every day at my desk. And what we did was we created an audience and then tried to specifically target certain information to drive that audience to do or think a certain way. And it was so unfulfilling. And at the same time as I'm doing this routine and working at this job selling grass seed, I am seeing AOC get elected into office. I'm seeing the squad rise up. I'm seeing the polls come out, because that's when they were coming out in 2018, 2019, that were first showing a majority of people my age would choose socialism. And it was laughable when I first saw it. I said, "You've got to be kidding me." And first of all, my thought was, these people do not want to seize the means of production. Okay, they're capitalists, and maybe they see what's going on in Nordic Europe. They want a social democracy, which is high taxes, huge government programs, massive government regulation, but still a capitalist economy, still private business and private property, even if it's continuing to slowly go down that road to socialism. They do not want to nationalize industries, and they probably have never heard that term before. And so that gave me a lot of hope of if we could reach them with basic truths and help them have a better solid understanding of, again, the basic information of history, econ, and philosophy, and all of these ideas that we should be learning in the American classroom, we could probably change their mind. And if anything, at least get them to say, okay, I understand that I should be on a foundation of capitalism and classical liberalism and not embrace authoritarian, radical leftist ideas like socialism. So my first concept was to build social media pages that produce content and specifically targeted, micro-targeted to young millennials and Gen Z. But now we've grown into something where it's, okay, now parents are reaching out to me worried about how they talk to their kids about this. Now I have students asking, what do I say when I'm in a classroom and have to confront my professor? Not only that, but there's just people out there that care and they're confused themselves. And so I don't discriminate on age anymore. I don't just try and target millennials and Gen Z. I really try and make us a resource for everybody.
Because there's an audience for this now.
Exactly.
And I mean,
it's exacerbated the last 2 years.
Absolutely. And your content makes perfect sense for any viewer. I've watched a lot of your videos. I know a lot of our followers have as well. And one thing I noticed is this started out with the goodwill intent of, I just want to educate people on how to have these discussions with people with differing views and have more of a civic dialogue. And now you've turned this into a business. I mean, you are targeting people across the globe. You're equipping them with this knowledge. And now I believe you have a staff working for you at Young Americans Socialism, which is very exciting, growing something from concept into reality, which a lot of business owners struggle with. Kind of tell me more about that journey, Morgan. How did you go from concept to reality and realizing, okay, I need some help, because we've worked together before in other capacities, and I know it was just Morgan doing everything. And now you've got a team. How many team members do you have?
So it's interesting. We now have somebody who's like fully dedicated to the nonprofit now, which is the first time we've ever had that. We're pretty scrappy, and I am a scrappy person, and so I like to be efficient and effective with dollars. That's really always been a core value of mine as a conservative. My dad raised me to be a history nerd, but also raised me listening to things like Dave Ramsey. And so going into running an organization, I understood that, all right, our information might not exactly be very profitable, right? We're making videos that maybe tell the stories of survivors from socialism, survivors from communism, basic information on the 5 things you need to know about cultural Marxism. Is that going to go viral? Probably not. And so we're not exactly going to get in-stream ad revenue from a video like that. And so we do need donor support. And when I first started, I had my 9 to 5. We started pitching, this is how it happened, we started pitching the concept of me as a young woman starting this organization to reach my peers. And we would send it to local radio stations, we sent it to local TV, and we started to get picked up. So little radio interview after, I would go after work or I would leave for a lunch break on my job, and I would be doing radio interviews pitching it. And we would get maybe $200 of donations from each interview, $5 donations here, $10 there. And eventually, those kind of little snippets of content, we would send those to the bigger guys. And eventually we got on like Buck Sexton, Glenn Beck, and that led to a couple weeks later getting onto things like Fox and Friends. And so me, again, saying I'm a young woman and I want to reach my peers because I know that they're being lied to and that's not fair to them. They deserve the truth. It was a strong pitch. And so our first major supporters that helped us get the funds to be able to expand and bring on team members was from the small dollar donors that could still contribute today monthly. And then I learned how to do all the big reaching out to people who just truly want to help others with larger donations.
Contribute to the cause. And you guys are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, correct?
We are, and we're really excited because I see this as becoming a huge umbrella in the future. And this idea of the C3 is so important. But when we talk about living out our values, and that's something I always want to do, I want to cultivate goodness in everything that I do. And so I always talk to the team about how can we make this bigger? How can we show people that being free, embracing freedom, it's a lifestyle. It is not just one social media page that puts out educational content. How do we show people how to live out their values and give them the tips and the tricks that they need to do so?
And how you engage with them is so unique as well. I know you have your own podcast. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I just do my own podcast. I talk a little bit more about the political stuff, I'll be honest, and it's an opportunity for me to grow. I know that I'm a woman, you're a man. You may have different goals in life in terms of like what you were thinking in your 20s versus your 30s. And for me, I'm 24, I'm a young woman, and I want to have a big family one day. I want to have a homestead, I want to have land, and I want to grow my own food on it, and I really see that vision for myself of that life. And most importantly, I want to be an active mother. And so from an early age, when I was in my 20s and up until this point, I've always tried to make myself aware of the opportunities that this capitalist economy provides to me as a young woman. I don't need that 9 to 5 to feel fulfilled and to be thinking that I'm contributing to the workplace or to society. Because of this capitalist economy, I'm able to do things like maybe start a podcast and then make that profitable in the end. I also sell my flags, I have my nonprofit, I do media commentating, I do speeches, and all of that, it's because I wanted to build a life where I could earn money and be self-sufficient, self-reliant, and independent, but also I'm going to be able to earn money and do all these things when I have a family and still be a very active mom and present. And I do want to homeschool my kids one day, so I'm trying to set myself up for the skills and the ability to do so. So I'm really excited about that.
That's awesome to hear, Morgan. And, you know, especially people who try to find that work-life balance, I mean, that's exactly what you're trying to set up for yourself in later years, which is something a lot of young entrepreneurs are now starting to realize in this sort of virtual co-working economy that we have going right now. Is you don't have to have that traditional 9 to 5 schedule. You also don't have to have a college degree for a lot of these things. I mean, a lot of people who come on the show, you know, a lot of them do have credentials in various areas, but others, you know, they're in the trades, welding, plumbing, electricity, you know, kind of the foundation of what America is, and jobs that are very scarce right now. You mentioned a flag company. Tell me a little bit about that, because not only do you run Young Americans Against Socialism, but you have your own private business on the side as well.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So, like I said, my dad's in the military. We have a workshop, and one day when I was in college, we were just playing around, and my dad was like, I want to make these flags that I saw on YouTube. We watched a YouTube tutorial. He put it together, and he came to me with this formed wooden flag. It was beautiful. It's 3 feet in length. It's just huge and gorgeous, and we looked at it and we were like, wow. And he was like, the problem is I can't do the stars. He had tried to Dremel the stars by hand, which the tutorial said to do with a stencil, but he just couldn't do it. He's got a big man hand. And so he asked me if I would do the Dremel of the stars. And so I took it down to the basement and I put some music on and I started Dremeling the stars. It took me like 3 hours. But I kid you not, I look at it and the family like goes down and we look at it and we're like, this is really something beautiful. And what do we do with it? You know, this is something we want to continue. And so we started donating them to local VFWs. When I was in high school, this is a little strange, but I joined the VFW Ladies Auxiliary, and that's my community activism when I was younger. So because my dad served, I was in the Ladies Auxiliary, and I became an officer at like 16. I was the youngest known one in the state history, because who does that? It's a little weird. Everybody was at least like 5 decades older than me in the room. And the oldest member was actually 83 years old. Her husband was in the Pacific arena of World War II. So it really was an honor for me to do it. I went back to them with my flags and I said, me and my dad are starting to make these flags. Can we donate them to the fundraisers that you guys do? Because there's a lot of Vietnam veterans that have fundraisers because now they have cancer from being exposed to Agent Orange. So that's how we first got started. We would donate them and just have fun with it. And then people wanted to buy them. So I was looking at the Instagram post that I did 3 years ago where I was like, people are starting to want to buy these flags. I'm going to make an LLC. Give me a week and I'll start sending them out to you guys. And it's really grown because now it's a full-on business. My mom retired from her job as a physical therapist, and now she full-time works for the flag company, and she's in the workshop too. It's adorable. And she listens to Fox and watches that as she's painting
Carving
the strips.
flags.
Yep, as she's painting the strips. And my dad still does his military work, but when he comes home from work, he's also making flags. It's a family business. And what I did in college is I paid off my student loans with it. And from there on, it was like, let's really grow this thing now.
Now that is a great success story. You not only did you build an organization organically, but you did the same thing with a company. You found a niche in society that you could fulfill is people want to buy your flags. And in today, it's not often you talk with young Americans who want to chase that American dream in our society, the free market, so to say, you know, and they have an opportunity to build a company like this. You can file an LLC in the state of Arizona for maybe $130. It's not terribly expensive, but it's a hard cost that you have to afford. And you took the revenue that you received with your flag company and paid off your college tuition, where we have so many kids out there right now asking for the government to do that. So you're going against the grain with that, which is just phenomenal.
Oh,
Morgan.
what's so funny? So I do a lot of media commentating now, and I was on like Newsmax or something a couple weeks ago, and with the inflation of Biden, our flags, because we offer cedar, pine, a bunch of different options, our cedar flags cost 2 times as much as they did before
Wow.
Biden to make, and so that's a pretty big deal for
Oh,
us.
yeah,
We're a
it's a
small family
jump.
business. The cost of producing our flags is now 2 times as much. And so I'm invited onto Newsmax. They asked me about my flags and the inflation rates. And so I explained this. And then guess what the next segment was about that I had to talk about? Biden saying he wants to cancel student loan debt. And so it's just like, I started this company to pay off my student loans. I did that. Now I'm trying to build my small family business that employs both of my parents. And now I have to talk about how students that didn't do something like this are going to get my taxpayer dollars to pay off their student loans.
Exactly.
A little bit frustrating, but it was pretty ironic.
Oh, I can imagine. And I mean, it's so interesting right now. There's a lot of, libertarian and right-leaning groups out there who talk about the free market and saving capitalism and things like that, which I know that's sort of the messaging on your platforms as well. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see the debates for that. And oftentimes, young individuals, which it is very rare in American society today that you find a young female conservative running companies and a social media platform as you are.
I'm often the lone one in the room.
Yeah, what are the challenges to that? And I guess what are the barriers you had to break through to get to where you are today? Because I assume there has to be some.
Yeah, I think it's all, you learn as you go. And I was talking to my friend Nick, our mutual friend Nick, about this. And there was this idea of like, you can work in something that you feel unfulfilled in, that isn't your project, that's not your business, and 9 to 5, and you can feel slowly waterboarded, and that's fine. Or you can choose to go on your own path and start something from scratch, and you'll get like a swift punch to the face once a day. But would you rather get the swift punch to the face or slowly waterboarded for the rest of your life?
Exactly.
And for me, I'd rather get that punch to the face.
Mm-hmm.
So when that kind of stuff happens, I try to be like, all right, I signed up for this.
Yep.
And so I don't really take those as like major hits. When something bad happens, I just say, all right, how are we going to maneuver it? And now having a big team, it's really, really helpful. Having teammates that see the same vision as me is so important, and I can't tell you, really, it's what will help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of consultants out there, and I will laugh about it, of like, they deliver you this proposed contract. There's no deliverables. They just want to give you their friendship, their network. They're going to introduce you to people. I'm sorry, but I just don't have time for that kind of stuff. And learning that politics is an industry that a lot of people are just making money on as the cycles of the elections go through, and especially with the nonprofit dollars that are going in and out, it really turned me off from that kind of world. And so experiencing it for like 3 to 4 months and saying, whoa, that's not how I want to do things. I want to hire people that aren't into politics, that aren't in that political world, whether that's video editors or our marketing director, all that stuff. Because again, I really do see this as creating this lifestyle of freedom, encouraging people to live out their values. And that means getting away from that little bubble that's created in the conservative political world. And so really defining something new. That's my goal now. And even though there are hardships, it's fine, because I'm just so inspired in the work that I do. I love feeling fulfilled.
And you learn from it, because I mean, there's so many times I've never heard a CEO tell me I made a mistake and I'm going to be pissed off about it the rest of my life. It's usually, okay, we've made a mistake, we learned from it, and we're not going to let it happen again. It's kind of like that famous George Bush saying where he says, fool me once, okay, fool me twice, well, you're not going to fool me again. So that's an interesting dynamic we see among CEOs. They welcome the mistakes, they welcome the failure, and it seems like you've gone through that enough to learn that this is how you want to lead your company and lead your team, which I think is an important dynamic for any infrastructure of a business. Who are those holding up the pillars for you to succeed? And I guess, tell me about your team dynamic. I know you're onboarding new employees right now, you're interviewing people. Are you finding more individuals who are dedicated to the cause, or more that want to just do the work and serve you in any capacity possible?
Well, and we're in a big transition phase, because for that first year, or I would say for the first 6 months, it was just kind of me coordinating, and especially that first few months of experiencing the contractors of DC and then being like, whoa, not my thing. So about 6 months in, I had to scratch it all and say, this is not the way that I want to go forward. And so I started kind of from scratch with our content, making it on my own, editing out on my own. And the first big hire that I had, I was so excited for this, was just somebody that I could give the passwords of the social media accounts to, that I could give the content to and say, please post this for me at these times. That was a huge thing, because I was always on planes. This was before COVID.
Yeah.
And so I was at conferences, speeches, the planes, the college campuses, because I go to a lot of the campuses and train the students. And so I just was physically on planes with no Wi-Fi, too much for me to be posting the content that I was making and working so hard to make. And so having that first person that could just help me get the content out there was a big step. And then it turned into, okay, we're gonna have to start with volunteers. We're gonna have to start with people that are just truly, they believe in the cause. Maybe they're students, high school students, or just young professionals. And so we did things like we had writing contributors, and they would write for the blog, they would make content, they would maybe do a selfie video when a current event came out. But over time, I've been slowly fundraising and working to get the needed person that we need, and that's somebody who can handle the production. So that for me, where I'm always doing media stuff, I'm always on camera. Instead of me having to handle the back end, write all of the scripts, and write all the research papers so that when I get on camera, I'm knowledgeable and I'm sharing information with the person that's watching, I can just get that preparatory document, and then I can go on camera and talk about it.
Show up and do your thing.
Because what I see is, and what this new team member that we just brought on, we are trying to serve people. We are trying to give them equipment and tools and knowledge that will help them in their life, whether that's basic educational information, how to be activists in their own community, or how to live out their values, like, hey, here's how you can better homeschool your kids, here are the suggested lessons we want to provide, stuff like that, where we're really expanding in that way. And so having somebody who can help me and see that vision is just so important.
Morgan, I know recently you were canceled on a platform known as TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. What was the post that got you banned? And then I think it was a day later, I got another email from you saying, oh yeah, I'm back on. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically accepted now at this point. TikTok's never going to allow people that have opposing political thought, especially if you're going against communism. It's deeply connected to communist China. And so if you look at the algorithms, I won't nerd out right now, but if you look at the algorithms of TikTok, communist China and the companies that are tied to it and built up TikTok have made the app so that you go viral easily on the app because it gives you those good feelings. It makes you feel good. Right now, we just all care about self-esteem as a society, and it's a terrible thing, but it makes people want to continue to use the app because they're getting all these followers, and now they're TikTok famous, and now their videos just got all these views. It's built like that because they want your data and they want your information.
Of course.
So from that, though, it's got the ties to communist China. So I've always been against TikTok, and I have a lot of volunteers on the team that are younger, and I'm the grandma of the team, and I'm fine by that. But the younger high schoolers are like, Morgan, we need to be on TikTok. They have 80 million monthly users in America.
It's so popular.
Yeah, 80 million monthly users. You want to reach young people, Morgan? Let us make TikToks.
That's the way to do it. Yeah.
And they were like, we'll sacrifice our phones. Like, we'll put it on our phones. Like, I didn't want the app on my phone. So I said, you know what? Try it out. If our goal is to really reach young people, then maybe we do need to be putting anti-communist information on TikTok and see how it goes. We thought maybe we'd last like a week. We ended up lasting about 30 days. We got to 30,000 followers. And once we hit 30,000, a video that we put out about China's concentration camps with the Uyghur Muslims got us banned.
That's what got you kicked off.
It got us banned. And then there was other ones. Everything that we do exposes the terrible behavior of communists, whether it's from China or Cuba, everything. So we had a good time with it. We got banned. We got brought back. We've been banned like 5 times now, but we still continue to post on it because our mission is to reach as many people as possible. And unfortunately, TikTok is one of the most popular platforms to do so.
Yeah.
So
it's part of your mission.
It's a debate.
And, absolutely. And Morgan, kind of a profound theme of our discussion today is you are a strong advocate for the First Amendment. Freedom of speech and expression, whatever it may be, you're putting that information out there. You want people to listen, to follow you, to be educated on this is how you need to have these types of conversations. This is what socialism really is. This is what cancel culture really is, which is an exciting fact we learned today. It's actually totalitarianism. And with that, a natural question, I guess, to end our conversation today is, what does freedom mean to Morgan Zegers?
Well, for me, I mean, especially in these times, it's so important to understand that freedom is choice, the ability to choose for yourself and to live your own life. And what we're experiencing right now is this massive struggle between choice versus force. And we're seeing force come into play. But going all back to yes, I founded an organization called Young Americans Against Socialism. Why did I do that? I know it's very specific. Some people are like, you need to be for something or all this stuff. For me, it was because I'm a history person and I wanted to talk about the past so that we can understand the past and then move forward to be able to reject those terrible ideas. And that's why. The problem that we have in America right now is that way too many conservatives and people that align with us and maybe believe in freedom, maybe they're libertarians, whatever they are, they look at socialism and they look at the numbers of my generation supporting socialism and they say, those idiots. those idiots, socialism has never worked before. Like, they need to go live in Venezuela and then they'll really learn. Where does that get us, to just dismiss them and make fun of them? I think it's, first of all, important to understand there's a difference between the naive, misled, young Americans that want to help people and are falling for the lies of the left, and then the actual woke leftists that understand what they're doing when they say they want to bring socialism to America. They want to seize the means of production. Huge difference between the two. So to message to them the same is very damaging. The problem when we say socialism's never worked, how dare you support it, we need to be understanding why socialism doesn't work. And for me, that's bringing in that element of, okay, when you have the rise of the left, you have totalitarianism, like we spoke about, but also socialism, the economic step, and then authoritarianism, which is telling people what to do, no choice. When you have socialism, that's really the first step to communism, because you need to be able to economically and financially control people. That is what gives you the ability to control them in every other aspect of life. And we saw that with COVID. I mean, a small example, tiny, is you cannot get on this plane unless you wear a mask. Okay, for us it's like, I travel for work all the time. If I'm traveling to a campus to give a Commie Fighting 101 speech to train students, it's worth it for me to wear the damn mask. Dang mask. Sorry, I get a little passionate. It's worth it for me to wear the mask to get to the campus to speak to the students, and so I'm going to make that sacrifice. If you think of that on a larger scale, what it looks like in a country like Venezuela, where the government says, you are not going to be able to do X, Y, Z, like get your pension, your retirement, be employed, get your grocery card and your hour that you're allowed to go to the grocery store, or your health care, unless you do X, Y, Z. Think about that in the bigger terms. When they are the only provider of a service or a product, you really have to do whatever they tell you to. And we've learned that for COVID in America. We've seen it in Australia especially. And I hope that us experiencing this right now is going to build a lot of young people and older people in America who have a different view of leadership, of education, of self-reliance, and authority as they move forward into their lives. Because it was just such a great example of, you cannot have XYZ unless you comply. What we're seeing now is we're being told unless we get the vaccine, we will not be able to do XYZ. One of those is they're talking about flying. And so, okay, for me, I'll wear a mask, right? I'll wear a mask to fly if I can go give a commie fighting speech. Would I get the vaccine as a healthy 24-year-old if I am not allowed to fly from place to place now? That's when you're getting into those situations.
Your freedom is then gone.
The choice has been removed. And so thinking about that on a larger scale, but your health care, your food, your retirement, your employment, which is what the government controls when you're in a socialist economy, unless you comply with what they want you to do, you're not going to get those things. And that's what I hope people can understand. And that's why I believe talking about socialism first, economic and financial freedom, being able to take care of yourself is so important, because it's what leads to the totalitarianism and authoritarianism that leads to communism.
Absolutely. Well, Morgan, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Where can our followers find you and your organization?
Yeah, so we put out a ton of content. The easiest way to just connect with us is fightsocialism.org, because it'll link to all the videos, our podcasts, our resources for parents. We're really building it out, and it's a resource for students, parents, and just patriots that want to be more involved. So fightsocialism.org is the website, and from there it shows all of our social media information that you can tag us in.
Perfect. Well, thank you to Morgan for joining us today. I'm Austin Jack with Brewing Business. Have a wonderful rest of your day.